Hello and welcome to another macro video. We're looking today at starting with macros but doing so slowly, and I'm guessing that you may well have heard of a thing called Macros by the Tourist Route and maybe even downloaded the document from my website, but this is more of a general introduction to the subject so that you're more prepared to actually start up the route. So we're looking at Macros by the Tourist Route. A bit of a funny name. The idea is that we're climbing the macro mountain but doing so slowly. So a tourist route is one that goes up steadily as opposed to one that goes up more dramatically, and you maybe even have to use climbing equipment. It's another way to get started that I produced some while ago was a thing called the Macro Starter Pack. That was great. It gave you 24 macros that you could put in your computer quite quickly and easily with a few instructions, but it was quite hard work. It was quite a steep climb, so I liken that to an Eiger Direct, going up the Eiger by a very steep route. So what is Macros by the Tourist Route? Well, it's basically a self-directed learning scheme, so you download a file and work your way through the instructions that it gives you. It allows you to start on your macro journey, and we've got Mac and PC versions, so you can download the one which is appropriate for you, and they're both in the documents folder on my website, and they are entitled Macros by the Tourist Route and that one with the Mac. So that's that. Okay, so what's the principle of Macros by the Tourist Route? Well, the idea is that you just install one or two macros just to get you started, and the important thing then is to use them. Then you install some more and you use those, and so you repeat that pattern, just installing a few more macros here and there. So that's the learning technique, if you like. Now there may be some questions that you're asking. Sensible question, well, what is a macro anyway? I'll look at that in a minute. And what can they do for you? I mean, why bother getting started with macros? Another question is, do you have to create your own macros? Well, I can answer that quickly and simply. No, don't worry, you don't have to create them yourself. I've created them for you, or I've created a whole set of macros that are suitable for editors and proofreaders. Where do you get them? Where do you find them? Well, the answer is in my book, and my book is on my website, and the link is there, the book. So how can you get started with them? Well, obviously that's what we're here for. I go through the Macros by the Tourist Route, and that's what I want to introduce you to. How then can you learn more once you've been through Macros by the Tourist Route? Well, there's a part 2 which will take you a bit further on, but then there are a lot of different things that you might want to do with macros. Different people work in different ways, so there are various videos which would help you, like there's a couple of them for fiction editors, for example. That's one way of learning more. Another way is a very important way is to see what my book has got to say for itself. There's a lot of help in there, and there's summaries of different types of macros, and there's specific instructions about the macros. So the question I said I'd answer was, what is a macro? Well, it is a kind of difficult question to answer, because some people have got a misapprehension of what a macro is. They've heard about doing a macro, which means recording a macro, and that's something which people used to do. Yes, they still do it, but there is a much wider availability of macros, and I think it's better to liken them to apps. What is an app? Well, on a phone you have these things called apps that you download, and they do things for you. Well, what do they do? What are apps for? Well, they do all sorts of different things, mostly to do with handling information. So it might be weather, or your playlist, or all sorts of different things. I mean, I don't use very many apps. I use WhatsApp, but that's about it. But probably there are lots of different things. Okay, so we carry that on and say, well, what are macros for? Well, again, all sorts of different things. And as far as this is concerned, as far as we're concerned, the macros we're interested in are those for Microsoft Word. In other words, they are macros for handling words and sentences and paragraphs and punctuation and sections and chapters and so on. So that's what the macros that I produce are for. Well, you say that's a bit vague. What sort of things are you talking about? What sort of things can we do with words, sentences, paragraphs, and so on? Well, the way I would like to think of it as that there are 5 different types of macros. First of all, and this is kind of what you might want to do first when you're doing a job, is to analyze the text. There are a lot of macros that will enable you to look at the text that you're handling and say, well, are there some inconsistencies in here? And if so, what are they? And the macros for that will show you some of the inconsistencies. And then as you're actually editing and reading the text, there are macros that enable you to change. Oh dear, look, text is spelt wrongly. That should be, those 2 characters should be the other way around. So if I click in between the 2 and I run a macro, then it switches those 2 characters around. That was running a macro from a keystroke. I can run it again and it goes back the other way. I can say, okay, oh dear, those 2 words are the wrong way around. So if I run a different macro, I can turn those round so that they're the right way around. So those are the things that you, sorts of things that you, oh no, look, this break between words here, that should have been, it would be better with a colon, wouldn't it? Oh no, well maybe we want a comma. Well no, maybe we want a full stop. And not only does it change the punctuation mark, but that macro, those macros, there's one for each punctuation mark, they also change the capitalization of the first letter of the next word. So those will speed things up as you're reading. Okay, then there are a whole set of macros that will make global changes. In other words, they make changes to the whole of the text, the whole of the document that you have loaded up in Word. But you really must only do those sorts of things before you actually read the text, because you could change things that you don't realize you're doing. So it's important to do that before you read. There are lots of macros to do with information gathering. As you're reading a document, as you're editing it, you may want to know things, you may want to look things up on the internet, you may want to know things about what's in the document. So we'll look at that in a minute. When you're editing, you're navigating, you're moving around the text, you're looking for different things in the text. You might have more than one file open and want to look for something in another file. So looking references and citations and words in different lists and all sorts of things you might be looking. So you're navigating around different documents. So there's a whole set of macros that help you with that. Okay, before we go any further, a question which some people do ask is, are macros safe? Now, one thing that people have heard about is that macros carry viruses. Well, they can carry viruses if you're a malicious programmer who wants to use them. But as far as we're concerned, you are going to put my macros in your, or somebody else's macros, in your computer and use them. Those macros don't carry any viruses. So please don't worry about that. You can get started with my macros without any problems. Another aspect of safety is, I've heard people using macros and they mess up their document in some way. Well, okay, it depends. It depends. You've got to be careful. So it depends what kind of macros you're talking about. So if we look back at those 5 types of macros, we can see whether each type is susceptible. So different types of macros. Analysis, there's no danger with those, because what those are doing is taking a copy of the text and putting it in another file and looking for things in it and generating data, finding out how many times different words appear and so on. And those then produce a file with all that data for you to look at, but they're not touching the original file. So those are quite safe. If you're making changes to the text as you read, well, yes, you've got to be a little bit careful that you don't make mistakes as you're doing it, but that's true for any way in which you make changes to the text as you go along. Now making global changes, yes, you do have to be careful with that, and again I say only do global changes before you read the document. Information gathering, well, that's fine, that's just looking for things. Navigating, you're just moving around the document, you're not changing the document, so you're not going to do any damage by using those macros. Okay, there are a couple of those items, a couple of those types of macros are possibly new to you. One is information gathering, using macros for information gathering. So if I give you some examples, that might help you to see what sort of things we're doing. So, for example, right-handed. Now, hang on, was that hyphenated or not in the document? So if I run a macro for that, it's generated a window there. You can't really see it very well. So if I get rid of it and paste it back in, then it comes up a decent size. So that was the hyphen space word count macro that I ran, and it told me that the hyphenated version is twice in my document. So without two words without a hyphen occurs once, and it doesn't occur at all as a single word or as a dash separated word. So that's the sort of thing that produces. You could look for a word and ask how many times that word occurs. Same idea here. Let's get rid of that and let's paste it there. So this one is called count phrase. It's told me about that word, the word new, or I could have found out about a couple of words or something. It tells me how many times it occurs. It checks it case sensitively. It says, is it in bold? Does it occur as whole words? So all sorts of different ways in which it counts things for you. Okay, what else have we got? So looking at websites. So if I want to know about CIEP, I want to Google it, I can run a macro, click, and it launches that into Google, or it opens a browser and launches it into Google, so I can find out about that particular word. If I say etiolated, what the heck does that mean? It'd be useful to find out what, look in a dictionary website. Well, for that I can look at, for example, I could look at Merriam, or there are macros for different websites. I've used the one that accesses the Lexico, the OUP website, and tells me the definition of etiolated. The two macros I used there were Google Fetch and OUP Fetch, and there are a whole lot of different fetching macros for different websites like Wikipedia and all sorts. Another bit of information that might be useful is on actual characters in the document. So those first two characters look similar, and those two degree symbols look similar. But actually they're not the same. That one, if I click there and run a macro,
lowercase l,
that says it's a lowercase l, and this one,
uppercase I,
that's an uppercase I. That one,
proper degree symbol,
is a proper degree symbol, but this one,
masculine ordinal,
is a thing called a masculine ordinal. So let's see what we got there. So if you look at those characters in another font, you can see that the first two are different. That's an L and that's a capital I, and this masculine ordinal, you can see it's an O with a circle under it. That's when you're doing a posh thing for number. So it's not a degree symbol, even though it looks like one. And that one is a real degree symbol. Okay, so that's another kind, and that's the whatchar. So what character is that? Whatchar macro. You don't have to have the voice on it. That's just an option which I like. Well, yes, because if you want to get the data it can come up just in a window like that, and that says masculine ordinal, tells you the size of it, tells you that it is in Cambria, the font is Cambria, it tells you what the ASCII code is and the Unicode. So anyway, that's that, so let's get rid of that. Right, the other new concept is the analysis ones. There are a whole load of those. Just quickly look at 3 of them just to give you a feel of what sort of things they produce for you. So as I said, they produce reports, and here is a report from the Docalize, so that's just short for document analysis, and this historically was the very first analysis macro I wrote. It tells you about numbers, 4-digit numbers, 1 to 10, whether you're using TEN or the number 10, serial commas or not, punctuation of et al, etc. There's all sorts of bits and pieces here that it will tell you, and how it tells you how many times each of these different things occurs. So that gives you an idea of Docalize. Hyphenalize obviously is about hyphens, and it lists all the hyphenated words, and it also checks all sorts of other things like words starting with a particular prefix, whether or not they are hyphenated. And it lists them in 4 columns. So it lists them as if they are hyphenated, like bitstream there, and 2 words and 1 word, and this one is the final one is an N dash separated, so blue-green, like blue-green algae. Should it be an N dash or should it be a hyphen? Well, as long as it's consistent, you can decide. But this gives you the information about how many times each of these different words or pairs of words occur in those formats. And the third one we wanted to look at was proper nounalize. Now what that does is, first of all, it creates a complete list of all the proper nouns in the document and the number of times each word occurs. And then it first of all looks at all the A words and compares them all with one another and tries to see if any of the words might be a misspelling of one of the other words. So look there's boltzmann with 1 N and boltzmann with 2 N's. So that's the sort of thing that the macro looks for in that list. Well, okay, it does that and it highlights them in the list, but I've extended the macro a bit further, so it produces another report which is actually here. So what it's done is to pull out of the big list into a small list any words that it thinks might be alternatives of one another, alternative spellings, and it uses coloration so that you can see which one it is comparing with which other one. So if you take animal and anomaly, well, why is it suggested that those might be anything to do with each other? Because they have the same consonants, N, M, L, mixed in with different vowels. So that's one possible test. And anion and anions, so there's an extra character in that. So extra character in Asia and Asian, but I mean that's perfectly valid and there's not a spelling error. Switching characters round, yes, that's a good one. Averion and aviron. So there's all sorts of different tests it does, and it throws up pairs like brosso and brusso. Again, that's the different vowels with the same set of consonants. So those could be useful. Right, so where are we going next? Okay, so where do I find the macros? You can use my book. What's in the book? Well, what you download from from my website is a whole set of files. The 2 main ones of which, there are lots of others, are the instructions and also a general introduction to macros and what they're all about, and then another file called the macros, which is all of the text of the macros that you want to load into your computer or into the normal template, as we'll see in a minute. Okay, so let's have a quick look at what's in macro in the tools for editors file. So let's bring that in. Okay, so what we've got here is well, there's a contents list there, obviously, and then there's a sort of a general introduction, and then we've got an introduction to macros. And if you've already looked at the tourist route document, you might recognize some of this as being part of the tourist route file. Then, just to try and give you a flavor of the sorts of things you might do with macros, there's a section of my favorite macros as an editor and as a proofreader. Then just a bit of an idea of what sort of things you might do if you're proofreading using macros, and what sort of things you might do if you're editing. Well, obviously there's more things that you might do when you're editing, so that's those. Then there's a section on with different text analysis, is what we were saying about analysis, pre-editing tools, that's global changes, that's things you would do to the text before you start reading. Editing text change, in other words, the changes that you make as you go along. So under each of these headings there are different macros. Then there's a section here where every single macro is listed under different topics, if you like. Macros about bookmarks, comments, document analysis, which we've done, so there's lots of analyze type macros there. Things to do with fields, figures and tables, file handling, formatting, loads of different things there. And then we, under each of the main headings, we have all of the different macros like docalize, and so let's go a bit further down. So there's more analysis macros here, analyzing the different types of lists in your document. That's a new macro, listalize, highlighting the possible errors with a and an, which is analyze. So at the end of each section is the name of the macro, and you can then go into the macros file and go and find that macro and put it into your computer. So what else have we got? Yeah, so it's all the different, it's in there in the different sections of all the different macros. Other tools was things I couldn't find a category for. Then there are some useful bits of information in the appendices, several of those, but then some of them I've decided they've become too big to keep in this file, so I've put them in a separate file in the download called Tools for Editors Appendices, rather than having them in here. A useful one, important one to remember here, is backing up your normal template, because the template is where you store your macros, and if you don't want to lose them, then you keep a backup of the normal template, so that if something goes wrong, maybe if Microsoft do an update and for some reason or other your macros disappear and all the keystrokes that are linked to them, then if you've got a backup of your normal template, you can restore that and you're ready to go again. Then what else have we got in here? Oh yes, just down the bottom, I keep a log of when I either improve a macro or I add a new macro. So the new macros added are in bold there, and the improvements are down there, sort of. So 2020, these are the macros that have been added or improved, and so these are the recently added, like listalize, which is a recently added one. Okay, so that's that. And just finally, a quick intro. Oh, where did that come from? Go away. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong keys, aren't I? Try again. Right. The macros by the tourist route. Just a quick introduction to the actual document that you're going to go through, hopefully, when you're fired up and ready to go. the start of it is about where you put the macros, and we say that we put them in VBA, which stands for Visual Basic for Applications, or just in Visual Basic, and we also say we put them in the normal template. So that's where we're trying to put our macros. Oops, don't know all this, go away, stop. Okay, forget that. It shows you the different parts of a macro. Every macro has a name. The name of this macro is swap characters. It has a beginning and an end, that's sub and end sub. Sub is short for subroutine, which is another name for a macro. And if we want to put that macro into Visual Basic, into the normal template, we have to copy it. And what I usually suggest is either drag, if it's a short one, you can drag down. You saw as the cursor goes to the right, it becomes a white arrow, and you can use it then to drag select. But if it's a long macro, it's easier to just sort of select the beginning like that, and then go further down and try and find the end, and then use whoops, not Control Select. Use Shift Select. Let's try that again. Do the beginning. Do Shift Select to add on the very last bit of the macro, and then copy that and paste it into Visual Basic. And the very final bit before you can get going is how do you get into Visual Basic at all? Now, okay, it's explained in the document, or on paper as it were, but it's just to see it happening on screen, I think, will be quite helpful. So what are we doing? We are trying to find where the macros are, and okay, it's different on Macs from PCs, but it is similar, and we want a ribbon. Can we have my ribbon back, please? So we want to go to View Macros. So we look for the tab along here. There it is, View. So View, and then along here to Macros, and click on that. And if you've already got some macros, it's nice and easy, because you've got a macro, lots of macros here. If you click on any one of those, doesn't matter which one, you click on the edit icon there, and there you are. That is where you're trying to get to. That is a Visual Basic for Applications. That is the macros in the normal template. But if you haven't already got any, so the instructions say when you do your view macros, you may get an image that looks like B, not A. In other words, you haven't got any macros yet. And the problem there is, if I say click on the name of a macro and click edit, you can't, because here the word edit, the edit icon is grayed out, because there's no macro there. So what we have to do is kind of cheat and create a macro. It says there create, so we can create a macro. So it tells you to type in the macro name there, type in the word dummy, and then click create. So you create a sort of a non-existent, a pointless, non-existent macro there called dummy, and then you will have a macro that you can click on and get into the normal template. So in other words, you'll be able to click on your macro called dummy, and then you'll be able to click on edit and get in there. But final point, I keep saying final, don't I? In this here where it says macros in, it's a very good practice to change that to normal.m global template. So the global template means the normal template, the template where macros are available to anywhere wherever you're working, you can use them. If you put them in the normal template, that's where we want them. Make sure that one says .m global template, and then you can start editing and not editing, but adding, copying and pasting your macros in there. Well, I think you're now ready to start on your macro journey. Happy climbing, and if you have any problems, just do drop me a line on that email address. Whew, we got there. Well done. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.